Channel open. Welcome back to WeeklyTrek, a proud member of the Tricorder Transmissions podcast network and presented in partnership with TrekCore.com. I am your host, Alex Perry.
What's today's date? The date.
Today's show was recorded on September 9th, 2023, and is current through the Star Trek Lower Decks episode, I Have No Bones, Yet I Must Flee. All right, let's get into the show.
Good day, Voyager, and welcome to A Briefing with Neelix. It's a catchy title, isn't it?
WeeklyTrek is a regular news show covering the biggest stories from the Star Trek franchise. We are in the Alex Kurtzman era of Star Trek with the 12th television show and the 14th movie currently in production, and merchandise continuing to fill the Bajoran wormhole. So stick with me and I'll help you sort the real facts from lots of the Dominion propaganda that you'll find online. But I can't do this alone, and my guest this week is returning guest and co-host of the Snap Trek podcast. It's Jen Tift. Jen, welcome back to WeeklyTrek.
Thanks, Alice. Good to be here.
All right, Jen, well, you know the drill. I want to know something that's got you feeling good about Star Trek at the moment. What's got you moving at Warp 10?
Well, Lower Decks is back.
Sure is.
That's my favorite of the new Treks, and I'm excited. I was able to go to one of the screenings last night. In the one in Philly, and it was so much fun, and it was great to see the gang on the big screen, and it was a lot of fun. It was good vibes, good atmosphere, great crowd. It was fun. I hope they do more things like that.
Yeah, that's the thing. I'm feeling good about Star Trek as well this week because I was at the DC showing, you were at the Philly showing, and it was No Small Parts, Wage Dooge, Crisis Point 2, Paradoxus. Personal favorite, and Tuvix, the most recent TWOVix.
Tuvix.
The sequel to Tuvix. As if you
I'll just do what Janeway did. So good.
What got the biggest laugh in the Philly screening?
Oh, that's a good question. It was a good crowd. I mean, it was a very amiable crowd. Let's see. You know what got a really big laugh? It was kind of funny was in Tuvix when they first get on the Voyager and they're on the bridge and they're talking about the Neelix cheese. and this part really made me laugh too. So I was glad to see that it landed with the audiences. Is when Kayshawn says cheat. What does he say? Something about like cheese hurt the ship,
and then Ransom says. It was Voyager. Shit got freaky.
Yeah, which is so funny. And then the 1-2 punch of that, and then the next scene is T'Lyn going, "The ship smells like Borg." Just her deadpan, and it was so funny.
Yes, it probably does smell like Borg. I think for me in DC, the biggest laugh, surprisingly, was actually the very short trek. Yeah. That brought the house down.
It did in Philly too.
Yeah. Although I think there's a bit of an asterisk connected to it, which is I would imagine if you signed yourself up for a free showing of Lower Decks and you showed up like an hour before to get a good seat and stand in line, you probably have seen all those episodes before even Tuvix yesterday.
Right.
But I would imagine since it just came out that day, most people were seeing the very short trek for the very first time. And so, it's like jokes that you've seen before are never as funny as the first time you see them.
Right.
So I wonder if that was potentially what was attributable to that. But yeah, the DC crowd loved the very short trek.
Yeah, so did the Philly crowd. It was because I mean they did it right kind of like as an intermission too, which kind of like a little break for for a different sort of Trek humor, which I think just energized the crowd a little bit more. But yeah, a lot of the people that I was talking to had held off on watching Tuvix so that they could see it for the first time on the big screen, and I think
very cool.
I think that was evident in the way that they were reacting to certain things.
Yeah, I mean, and you know what? I mean, that was super generous of Paramount, right? I mean, yes, it was only 10 cities in the US, excluding some of the big ones, and a couple of cities in Canada and London. But for the DC one, I would assume this is true for Philly as well. Like, there's a little grab bag of stuff. But then the real thing was, they gave you a concessions ticket that was good for a free popcorn, a soda, and candy. And like at a movie theater, that's like $25 worth of stuff. Now, granted, it was the E Street Cinema in DC, which it's the first time I've been there in probably 10 years, and it has seen better days. But it was packed to the gills. I mean, there there was not a free seat in the house. And at one point, because I got there, I arrived to join the line at like 6:30, which was a huge mistake. I should have been there at least 45 minutes prior to that. So I was sitting like third row back from the very front of the theater. But it's one of these like independent theaters, and they do like screenings in there. And so there were like chairs set up at the front facing back towards the audience. You know, like if you were doing a screening followed by Q&A, you would use these chairs. And at one point, the like CBS gophers went and grabbed a couple of those chairs to like set them up so people who arrived late could sit on them, because there was not another seat available in the cinema. So yeah, it was cool. Nice to see how popular Lower Decks was.
Yeah, it was nice to be amongst other other Trek fans. We had some good cosplaying going on too, which was fun.
Very
to
nice.
see.
I didn't see any, and I didn't recall seeing any in the DC crowd. I also was not in cosplay because I guess we're more boring than the Philly crew.
Well, I'm boring too. I mean, I had a Lower Decks t-shirt on though, and a comp badge, so I was on theme. I was on theme.
Was it one of the Titmouse t-shirts?
Yes, it was actually Crisis Point too.
Oh, terrific!
Yes, I am wearing the band's t-shirt that I'm here to see, and that's okay.
An excellent t-shirt choice, if I may say so myself.
Thank you. So, yeah, but it was a good time.
All right. Well, with that, let's turn to the week's top stories.
There's a war going on, and I'm a reporter.
Well, happy Star Trek Day! Paramount have announced the full details of the series of animated promotional shorts that were first teased at San Diego Comic-Con in July, revealing that these 5 shorts will be known as Very Short Treks. As an homage to Star Trek the Animated Series, which celebrates its 50th anniversary this year, over the next 4 weeks, Paramount will be releasing these Very Short Treks, short promotional ads that will run just a few minutes in length and tell a quick story in the animated series style. Kicking off this week with Skin a Cat, it'll be followed next week, or I guess this week, the week that you're listening to this, by Holiday Party, then Worst Contact, Holograms All the Way Down, and Walk, Don't Run. The shorts have been developed by creative consultant Casper Kelly, but have a number of different writers. Star Trek Prodigy writer Aaron Walke wrote one of them. Casper's best known for the viral smash hit Too Many Cooks and his work on the regular short treks and Adult Swim. Jonathan Frakes, Doug Jones, Armin Shimmerman, Ethan Peck, Gates McFadden, Celia Rose Gooding, Connor Trenier, Bruce Horak, Noel Wells, and George Takei all count themselves amongst the voice actors that are contributing to the Very Short Treks. Ethan Peck was in the first one released on Star Trek Day. And alongside the animated shorts, Casper Kelly will also be releasing an animated series comic for IDW, The Shima Barrier, which also started publishing this week. Paramount have also released new artwork for the 50 years of Star Trek Animation Celebration, which features representation from all 3 of Star Trek's animated shows, that being the animated series, Lower Decks, and yes, Prodigy, which has otherwise been getting short shrift on the Paramount Plus publicity side since it was removed from the service. Jen, what was your reaction to the first Very Short Trek?
I thought it was really funny. I got a kick out of it.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. I think the animated series style of animation really lends itself well to this kind of comedy.
Yes.
You know, the like stilted, not as realistic, you know what I mean? Animation. Like it just feels very, very comedic. I like that Skin a Cat. Basically, the premise was kind of like paying homage to how, you know, when it went from the original series to the animated series, they were finally able to make really alien looking aliens. You know what I mean? Yep. So they kind of like took that, you know, if this is theoretically a short to celebrate the animated series, I thought that the theme of it was really well done with that, you know, because it's like, look at all these ridiculous aliens that they would never do in the live action, you know, the original series. So I thought that was great. And I'm still laughing at the water pressure joke. Just the absurdity of the water pouring out the console, it gets me. Like that got me. That really made me chuckle. So yeah, I thought it was good. I'm looking forward to seeing the rest of them.
And it is that sort of like, as you say, the animation style does suit itself very well towards that kind of humor. I mean, it's both funny and that is sort of, I think, accentuated by that sort of stilted expression, thing happens animation appears, right? Like water shoots out of the console. It does just work very well for, I don't know, something to do with comedic timing. Maybe that's why, unintentionally, the animated series with its animated stylings is as funny as it is, even when,
when it
it's
doesn't mean
ultimately
to
not
be.
supposed to be.
And it was kind of neat seeing, the animated series Spock, but hearing Ethan Peck's voice. That was kind of interesting. It made me really look forward to seeing the rest of our dear beloved characters be voiced by their actors. And it was funny, they did the commercial for the commercial during the screening, and both Connor Trinneer and Doug Jones got really, really loud applause when they were going through all the names in the commercial. So I thought that was interesting.
When same thing in DC
Fan
too.
Favorites.
When Connor Trinneer showed up on the, because I think they showed a picture of it. They showed pictures of their faces, and when he showed up on the big screen, there was a surprisingly big cheer.
Yeah,
and I was like, hold on a second. I know I'm not in Philly and Jen's not here, so like, what?
I swear it wasn't just me.
Yeah, right. What are all these people doing?
Right.
Yeah, I also really enjoyed seeing the sort of franchise opening, Enterprise swoop in the animated series
really
style.
Sharp.
It looked really sharp. Yeah.
That was cool.
Yeah. I mean, the thing I've always thought about the animated series is that the individual stills look very good. It's just when you, sort of string them together into what I think laughably passes for motion animation is where it starts to fall apart for me. I mean, of course, it's like there's been something of a stupid conversation this week about like, oh, well, when they were first announced, like, and the sort of publicity material said that, they would not be canon, and people getting all up in arms about like what constituted canon and would something like this be considered canon before anybody had seen it. And then, 20 seconds in,
20 seconds in, you're like, oh yeah, now I see what they're doing.
I understand what they're doing here.
Now.
Yeah. I get what this is now, and it's not whatever I thought it was going to be.
Oh yeah, I was like, oh man, maybe they're gonna bring back Trip. They're gonna make him a Section 31 agent. It's happening. You know? And then I'm like, oh wait, these are just
not happening here.
These are just for fun.
No. Yes.
But I like that. I think that's a really interesting thing for them to do.
Yeah.
Like that's that's a lot of work to put in for just. I mean, what do they hope? Just hoping to get more people to watch the animated series on Paramount Plus. You know what I mean? Like, what's the end game with these?
Yeah,
I don't know.
I assume so.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of trouble to go through.
Yeah.
For commercials, but but I'm not complaining.
Well, it's in some ways it's like. In some ways, it's like, I wonder if these were conceived of at a time when they were trying to promote a package of 3 animated TV shows on Paramount Plus. And obviously, there is a certain degree of awkwardness today about the fact that one of those shows is no longer on Paramount Plus, and the wider corporation talks about it, but like Paramount Plus. Right. Like that 22-minute promotional thing they did for Star Trek Day yesterday, the Jerry O'Connell thing on Paramount Plus, made 0 mention.
Yeah, and that actually made me really sad. Like it was there was a hole there. Like it was obvious.
Right.
Left out,
Yeah. But then you go to this screening yesterday, which seems like it was more like Mothership Paramount, not Paramount Plus.
Yeah.
And all the Prodigy stuff was left in, right? Like, the between the episodes, they had this like short history of Star Trek animation, these sort of 2 or 3 minute, sort of like interlude pieces. First about the animated series, then about Lower Decks, and then about Prodigy. And
short treks.
And short treks,
too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which I like to say.
Yeah.
That those weren't forgotten.
Right. and like they didn't cut out the Prodigy stuff. But weirdly, the popcorn boxes, the 50 years celebration animation graphic on the popcorn boxes doesn't have the mirth that's on the digital versions of it, and was up on the screen. When it was up on the screen, it had mirth. So you have to wonder if he was potentially added at a later date when someone looked at it and went, I think we're gonna get some flack if we don't have some Prodigy something.
Yeah, it's really disappointing that it's come to this.
Yeah.
Especially just with how good Prodigy is. Like they should be like if you're going through the trouble of making these like animated series shorts to like promote, like your animation, your comedy, whatever, you have like this prestige children's show too. Like that's another demographic that you have and you just threw away, and it's just bizarre, because the quality is there, and based on however long 5-minute clip that we saw in STLV that they put out of Prodigy, this is going to be deep within the canon, within the lore, within the, like this is like in there, and it's weaving together things from your other shows. They mentioned the Romulan evacuation. You know what I mean? Like, I don't understand. I mean, I'm sure I know it's a business decision and not a creative decision, and that I know, and obviously I can't speak to that side of it, but it's just bizarre, and it's just sad. It's just makes me sad. I feel very sad about it.
And it is most sad because it's like, here we are talking about the celebration of Star Trek animation and the great time with Lower Decks and, like screening and all of that. And we spend a 10-minute interlude talking about the awkwardness connected with the cancellation of Prodigy and like how they treat that. And it's just like there's a lot there. Yesterday during Star Trek Day, they're trying to launch this 50 years of animation celebration. And there's just a ton of chatter about not about Prodigy as a show, but about Prodigy as a product that's part of this business strategy that the corporation has made a certain set of decisions about. And it's just like, A, it's really awkward. B, it's really sad. And C, it just sucks, right? Like, that we're just stuck talking about how we think they've made a stupid decision because they have made a stupid decision, and they don't seem to like be in the business of wanting to move towards fixing it and making it better.
Yeah, and I get that Star Trek Day, quote unquote, is always a commercial.
Sure.
I get that. It's
never more obvious than yesterday.
But this one was literally just a 20-minute Paramount Plus commercial, which it was more sterile than the previous ones. You know what I mean? Like, especially since there was a focus on let's celebrate 50 years of Star Trek animation and not mention word one about this wonderfully animated children's program that we have. Because they're not going to, because this is a commercial for Paramount Plus, not for Star Trek. But, then they go back and start and pretend that they're just thinking about how wonderful a franchise Star Trek is and how great it is and blah, blah, blah. And it's just the disconnect there. It just made it feel a little icky. To me.
Yes.
This time,
Correct. Yeah. And I would imagine, I'll talk a bit more about this at the end of the episode. I would imagine that some of that is accentuated by the strike. And, in terms of like what they could do for Star Trek Day this year, they obviously couldn't do the like live event they've done the last couple of years. If they did that in LA, they get picketed and nobody would show up for it because nobody would be allowed to show up for it. So they were somewhat, I think, had their hands tied in terms of what was possible this year, but yet at the same time, the choices that they did make sort of revealed the man behind the curtain in some ways of, yes, it is this celebration of Star Trek, but it's a giant Paramount Plus commercial, and that's why the business does it, is not out of the goodness of its
understand
own heart.
that. I understand that that's a reality, but
but it sucks. No, but it sucks.
It read more like a PowerPoint presentation, to like shareholders about what they have to offer on their it's streaming service. And
Jerry O'Connell's wonderful, and they
he's great. He's great.
And they try to make that as sort of energetic and interesting as it could be. But it did also sort of have that a little bit of a feeling of watching a late night infomercial.
Right. Yeah. Tawny and Eugene are just amazing. That was cute.
That was cute. Yeah.
And that one I thought was effective as a commercial for Star Trek.
Yes.
As a franchise, as a whole, like, look at all these bizarre things. And they did pick bizarre things, but they also picked interesting things. Like if I had no idea what those clips were from, I would want to watch every single one of these shows.
Sure. Yes.
I thought you could show that that scene of them watching those to someone who had never seen Star Trek and maybe convince them to want to give it a try.
Convince them to embark on a 900 episode journey.
Maybe not a 900 episode journey, but at least to want to see the conspiracy bug scene in context.
Hey, I don't know. It's never too late to pick up a new 15 season obsession.
I mean, why not? I'm doing it right now with Supernatural. I'm going through it.
Well, Star Trek Lower Decks is back for season 4. The animated comedy kicked off its 4th season this week with a double header of Tuvix and I Have No Bones Yet I Must Flee, and we'll continue for the next... Oopsie. And we'll continue for the next 8 weeks for Lower Decks' 10-episode 4th season. And to preview the new season, Lower Decks supervising director Barry J. Kelly spoke to Trek Movie about what to expect from season 4 and talked a tiny bit about where they are with season 5 along the way. Speaking about the interludes in both of this week's episodes depicting a mysterious attacker destroying ships of various races, included beloved Captain Ma'ar of the IKS Chetar from Ways Douge, Kelly said, quote, "It's the first time we're doing a bit more of a serialized story throughout the season. Like in season 3, we had a little bit with Admiral Buenamigo, and then you realize he's the bad guy at the end of the season, but it's still very episodic. So this season, we're doing a little bit more. There's a little bit more of an overhanging threat that our lower deckers don't know about just yet, and we'll see how it meets up with them later." Kelly also talked about what adding the character of T'Lyn has done for Lower Decks this season. "Once we started doing scenes with her amongst the Lower Deckers crew, I was like, oh, this is why you have a Vulcan on board, because it immediately makes everything like 10% funnier," he said. Having them crack jokes and then having this one person in the room not laughing, not reacting, it makes it so much funnier. And speaking about the relationship between the writers and animators on Lower Decks, Kelly said, quote, "We shoot it like a Star Trek show. The script is already so funny. We get to add a lot of the more visual gags that the script entails. Again, a credit to Mike and his writers is that the descriptions in the script are just general enough that we can run with it. So Mike and his writers are just really good at giving just enough specifics for us to take a scene and just kind of build it out, give it more context, more action. We can really spice it up without them having to give us too much direction through the script." And what about the show's 5th season, which has already been officially announced? "We are already working on it," Kelly said. "I still have some stuff left to do finishing season 4, but we are already getting scripts from season 5, and they are hilarious. That's such a great thing about this job. I love getting these scripts for the first time and reading them, and I get to just laugh at it and enjoy." Jen, how have you been enjoying the return of Star Trek Lower Decks?
I'm loving it. Like I said, this is my favorite of the new treks. So yeah. I'm excited. I thought all the void jokes were hilarious. Moopsie's great, so far so good. I'm very interested in this mysterious ship. After seeing Tuvix, I was very upset about Ma'a because I love him so much. I love him as much as I love T'Lyn, and it was I like that we got to see him. He didn't want to, he said there's no honor in destroying a incapacitated ship or whatever he said, and his targ was still there on the bridge, and it was great. And then all of a sudden he's dead. Well, so I'm very interested in knowing who is responsible for this, because now I have a score to settle.
Yeah,
with them,
right.
But yeah, I love Lower Decks. Just hits all the right notes for me. So I thought Voyager looked so
good. Yeah,
stunning the way they animated it. Oh, it was amazing. We got to see it moving too. Not just like the interior. It was just so cool, and it was so good.
And they visited all of the best places. I mean, they went all over the bridge, engineering, astrometrics, sick bay, cargo bay.
Is my favorite. I was glad we got to see that. That was fun.
Yeah.
They hit all of Voy's deepest cuts.
That they did. That they did. I miss my wife. So
good.
I liked both these episodes a lot.
He's not even a hologram. He's so funny.
I like both these episodes a lot. I think I actually probably liked the second one a little bit more than I liked Tuvix. I mean, Tuvix is obviously like a lot.
It was a lot. It was a lot. And obviously, process it.
Yeah. And directly responds to, sort of Star Trek Twitter discourse from, I would say, the last 2 or 3 years. It feels like the sort of big crescendo.
Do we have to talk about Tuvix again?
I know.
Apparently we do.
Yeah, apparently we do. Yeah. To me, this feels like, the big crescendo of that.
Yeah.
But the thing about it being a crescendo is that it means you're at the end of the song. I hope I don't know anything about
they handled it so like it was just so funny when she's like, "Oh, I'll just do what Janeway did," you know. And it's like that's a really funny joke because you're like, "Uh-oh," she doesn't know. You know? And of course, then the 1-2 punch Mariner right after. She knows Janeway straight up murdered Two-Face, right? It's so good.
And like the Swaleson joke.
Oh my god,
that made me like I have not laughed that hard in a long time.
Oh, no.
That joke and the and Ransom's new teeth at the end of episode 2.
Oh my god,
both had me absolutely in stitches. Like I had to pause the episode because I couldn't. Like I needed to just get over the laughter before I could continue and concentrate on what they were saying.
I cannot handle teeth things. Oh, it's so gross to me. But I loved, and that I really love Mariner and Ransom.
Yes.
I think he's a very good not secret mentor, like a what's the word I'm thinking of? Not secret.
Unexpected.
Like, on the slot, unexpected, like but accidental, like he's an accidental mentor for her, you know, which I really like, because I think that's what she needs. And I'm very, very glad that they released these 2 episodes at the same time, so we didn't have to wait for Rutherford. We didn't have to spend a week wondering why Rutherford, the most competent of them all, you know, arguably didn't get his promotion. I love the way they handled that.
Yeah, because it turned out he'd already been promoted like 3 times before.
Can Rutherford get his promotion for removing the hull from the ship? Sure, why not? Which is an awesome joke because that was an amazing engineering, you know, idea, and it saved the day. And
it's like when it's spelled out like that, you're like, oh, he's actually the best in terms of most competent character probably on the whole show. Right? Like
and I love when they reference themselves like that.
Yes.
You know, like that's a, you know, that's not just a Star Trek joke, that's a Lower Decks.
Yeah, and they've gotten very comfortable doing that, which is nice.
I love those. I love those things.
Yeah, me too. It's definitely the show being confident in itself.
Yeah.
In addition to, you know, wanting to sort of draw on the stuff from other Star Trek, it is much more comfortable doing references to itself now, just as much as it does references to other Star Trek, which I really, really like. I mean, you know, it's
me too. They've got their own lore now they can pull from, and they do, and they do have a nice mix there. But and just Moopsie is so funny, like because of the animation of the way they animated this creature this adorable little creature sucking the bones out of things. Like I thought that was really. Because it's terrifying.
Yes.
But it's also hilarious.
Yes, it is hilarious.
It's like because I wouldn't be able to picture that in my head drinking bones. You know what I mean? The way they say quote unquote drinking bones. This is what literally what Moopsie does. It's so funny. Just leaving this like shell.
Yeah. And like
deboned like corpse of things.
And it's clearly very intelligent too, right? Like that's the other thing from the episode is it looks like it's just sort of rolling around randomly, but it is very sort of intelligently pursuing its prey.
Yeah. And it knew when it was in the control room that it could like do
it's
things.
Creepy.
It's creepy, and just saying just Moopsie is creep. It becomes very creepy. Yeah. It's so funny. I love it. I love Lower Decks. Oh my gosh, it's the best. So funny.
Well, announced on Star Trek Day, Paramount have signed a partnership with actor and recording artist Kid Cudi to collaborate on games, fashion, and music. Scott Mescudi, known professionally as Kid Cudi, has teamed up with Star Trek for this wide-ranging but still somewhat vague collaboration, which will be further fleshed out in October. It is expected to include an original song inspired by Star Trek, a fashion line, and an interactive gaming component, again, that will be explained later. The partnership is being branded under the tagline, Boldly Be. I grew up watching Star Trek with my dad, who is single-handedly responsible for turning me into a fan, Kid Cudi said in a statement. The most important thing to to me is to be as authentic as possible. Star Trek Mission has always been about having a hopeful future. And when I was first approached about this project, it was the perfect marriage of all the things I believe in, being brave and a hero by doing what's right and fighting for freedom. I can't wait to share my love of this incredible franchise with the world. Jen, what was your reaction to the announcement of a partnership between Star Trek and Kid Cudi? I know what mine was. Who's Kid Cudi?
Is that how you pronounce it? I don't even know. I was pronouncing it Cuddy. Today's the first day I've heard of this name, but yeah, I had never heard of this guy. And I'm embarrassed to say until today.
Yes.
So the only thing I really know about him is that he looks damn good in a Star Trek uniform. Because I like that little, that little
teaser
shot, that little teaser of him. I was like, oh, this guy is looking the part. It looks good. And I thought I hadn't heard of him at all, but then I Googled him, and I've played some of the music. I haven't heard any of that before, but he was the guy in Bill and Ted 3.
That's what people said. I've not seen Bill and Ted 3.
Oh, I saw that. And I remember him now. I remember his character. He played himself, but I remember thinking, oh, I should know who this person is, but because I'm old, I don't know who this is, so I just accepted that as a part of the movie and moved on. but when
Did you ask your kids if they knew who he was?
I did. They knew who he was. They knew, but they vaguely knew who he was. I think they're a little too young for most popular music. So they didn't know the name. But anyway, I think he's legit a little bit of a nerdy guy.
Yeah.
Which I believe that what you just read about what he says about being a fan and everything, because I watched an interview with him about the Bill and Ted thing, and the reason he got on that was because he met Alex Winter just randomly at a restaurant or something, and he's like, can I be in the movie? I'm the You Just Bill and Ted fan, from back in the day. I'm like, oh, this guy's just like a nerdy guy, like he likes sci-fi stuff, I was like, okay. But I think it's kind of good that I don't know who he is.
Yes.
I think it's more they're not focusing on me, which is good. They're focusing on younger people, and that's what they should be doing, and that's cool. And this there's gonna be a song about Star Trek. I'm always down for that. I love me some Star Trek music, and I'm always down for some Star Trek fashion. That sounds pretty cool. I think, and again, this is just the fact that they're trying these things with these promotions and things, they're putting effort into Star Trek. You know what I mean? That's the shows that they're, and which is always good. So yes, this is kind of interesting.
I have no idea who this guy is, and I kind of love that, actually. Right? It would be really easy for me to say I have no idea who this guy is, and therefore I don't give up about this and what are they doing and why can't they focus on making products but I'm into it too. I think this is great. I think it's I think I put on Twitter, right, normalize things not always being for me, right? That's a good thing, because demographically I'm not old in any stretch of the imagination, but I have just moved out of the very preferred demographic. And I'm still coming to terms with that fact, but at the same time, it's like, in order for the franchise to continue and to go from, we're going to hit 900 episodes very, very soon. I actually think in Lower Deck season 4 we hit 900. To go from 900 to 1,000, and then 1,000 to 1,200, and 1,200 to 1,500, that runs through Scott Mescudi. Or Muscadi, however you pronounce it. I feel really bad. I should have looked it up beforehand. Because it is going to require showing people that Star Trek can be cool, and it is worth checking out. And if cool people like it, even if itself it's not cool, that still opens a door and a window for people to walk through or jump through to experience Star Trek and become fans themselves. And that is an important part of keeping the franchise alive. And the thing that annoys me more than anything is this sort of sense that Star Trek is only for people born before the year 2000, and it should just always be for those people, right? Age along with them, and die with them too is the natural conclusion to that argument. And like, how could new fans ever really kind of, understand this or appreciate it in the way that the old fans do? And like, that's all nonsense. It's all stupid. Right. And it's also just like, again, like partially a product of, okay, yeah, if there are, 87 episodes of the thing, maybe you're a bit more defensive, 78 episodes of the thing, you're a bit more defensive about it, but there are 900 and, it's only hopefully going to continue to grow. And so, it's like, it's fine that different people access it in different ways and enjoy different things about it and experience it differently. And I really enjoy Sledgehammer, the Rihanna song they did for Star Trek Beyond. Actually, this reminded me. I was like, I've not heard that on my 24-hour long Star Trek playlist has not played me that Rihanna song in a while, and this inspired me to go check, and at some point it had fallen off the playlist, so I've added it back on. And so like, that was great in 2016. It didn't help the movie very much, unfortunately, which is potentially why we don't have much of a fourth Kelvin timeline movie, but like, that was a good thing to try then, and it's a good thing to try now. And yeah, he sounds like genuinely a big fan of this stuff, and I'm a fan of anyone who's a fan of this stuff, so yeah, right. Count me in for this one.
I also like their tagline, boldly be. I think boldly be is lovely. I think that's lovely. I like that idea. So I let's expand on that.
Yeah.
I like that.
Well, and lastly this week, Paradox Interactive have set an official release date and are taking pre-orders for Star Trek Infinite, the second big Star Trek video game being released this year, this time in the grand strategy game genre. Star Trek Infinite, which allows players to take control of the Federation, Klingon, Romulan, or Cardassian Empire, will officially release on October 12th and can be pre-ordered now through Steam. Players can pre-order either the standard edition of the game, priced at $29.99, or a deluxe digital edition for $39.99. All players who pre-order, including both the standard and deluxe edition, will get access to special Lower Decks content, and the deluxe edition will include a soundtrack, digital art book, and an in-game music pack, which it sounds like maybe has some of the iconic Star Trek music included within it. Beginning decades before the Star Trek The Next Generation era, Star Trek Infinite grants players the power to shape the galaxy's destiny as a faction of their choice. The immersive grand strategy game puts players in the captain's chair to lead one of 4 unique quadrant powers: the UFP, Romulan Star Empire, Cardassian Union, or Klingon Empire. While remaining faithful to Star Trek lore, Star Trek Infinite introduces fresh avenues for adventure, as players can explore the Alpha and Beta Quadrant, govern Empire dynamics, handle economic intricacies, and engage with undiscovered civilizations. The 2023 version of my favorite Star Trek game of all time, that being 1998, Star Trek Birth of the Federation. Jen, how do you feel about the fact that there are 2 big Star Trek video games in 2023?
That's great. I will not be playing this game because this is the type of game that I get addicted to. Like this basically looks like Star Trek Stellaris.
That's right? Exactly what it is. Yes.
Yeah, and I had real problems handling that one, and I would, if I started playing a Star Trek version of that, I would probably lose my job and alienate my loved ones, and I literally cannot play this game. But that being said, it looks awesome.
I'm surprised you never played Birth of the Federation then, because that was like 1998. So yeah,
that was right in my wheelhouse too. So I don't know.
That was great. I poured many. I mean, I was not like, it didn't sound like I had a problem the way it sounds like you had a capital P problem connected with it, but I loved it. I mean, like that is I found a promotional postcard for the game from 1998 on eBay, and I bought it and framed it, and it's hanging on my wall. That's how much I enjoyed that game. And it was the same thing. You would go out and you would make first contact with new races, and then you would, if you were the Federation, you would convince them to join the Federation, and you'd mine dilithium and build starships and build shipyards, and then like eventually you would encounter the Borg, and you'd have to defeat the Borg, and like you'd encounter the other races, and the Romulans would try and take over your space, and then you go play as the Klingons, and it's so much easier because you just go out and conquer everything. So yeah, it was a fun game. So yes, I'm excited about this. I have not finished Star Trek Resurgence, the other big Star Trek video game from this year. I'm probably about 2/3, 3/4 of the way through, and I've really enjoyed that one. That's obviously sort of the role-playing genre, decision-based story game. This one's in the Stellaris civilization grand strategy sort of style.
I love it.
And I'm excited about this one. I pre-ordered the deluxe pack.
Okay, I was gonna say you're getting the lower decks. The Cali class.
Absolutely. Yeah. And the in-game music
great.
and the soundtrack, I'll throw it on the 24-hour playlist. And
oh man, stop talking about it. I'm gonna order it.
Well, I don't want you to lose your job, but it could be fun.
Right. Oh no, but no, it sounds great. I love that.
All right, well, we've talked about the facts, and now let's speculate on what's going to happen in the future of Star Trek.
You make some very good points, Captain. But it's still all speculation and theory.
So each week, my guest and I give you a wish or theory we're nurturing about any of the shows or the future of the franchise. So Jen, let's hear your wish for this week.
Okay, yeah, I'm not doing a theory. You know me, I'm not big on theories to begin with. But also, you covered the only theory I care about last week when you talked about Trip Tucker and making his book fate canon, and I'm still crossing my fingers and toes that will happen someday. I think it's a good sign that we have Connor Trinneer back, even if it is just for a ridiculous, very short trek. That means he's on the radar, And we've got two possibilities. We've got Lower Decks. We've got the Section 31 movie, so, okay. But no, so I just have a wish. So my wish is this is just a general wish for some technical manuals. Yes. I want technical manuals. We have such cool freaking ships now. We got the Enterprise G, / Titan A. We've got the Cerritos, we've got even like Pikes, like the Enterprise. Yep. Let's I just want me some technical manuals. The Protostar would be a great book to make a technical manual out of. I want some technical manuals, man. That's all. That's just my wish. Very simple. I'm a simple gal.
Simple gal who likes my tech update manuals.
I just, what? I just like nacelle tubes. That's all I want.
I watched Tribunal the other day, Maz and Keiko, before he gets, arrested by the Cardassians, and they're off on their vacation, and he's reading tech update manuals. Right. How many of those things did you bring with you? Typical Starfleet engineer.
Exactly.
Yeah, I love the sort of the like behind the scenes, not behind the scenes, sort of like in universe.
Yeah, that's what I want. The in universe.
Yeah,
like,
the in universe like supplementary material. Yeah. The TNG technical manual's wonderful. The DS9 technical manual's wonderful. And we've not really best. We've not really had anything like that since. I guess the sort of Star Trek Picard guys have been talking about thinking about having started work on something like that, but those guys say a lot of stuff, So who knows if it'll actually, if any of that will come to be or not. But the Enterprise, the Neo Constitution class is a very nice looking ship. And it'd be nice to, it would be nice to, sort of add something to that. My favorite in that sort of genre is for me, the way I got them was through the Star Trek fact files. For you, the way you got them was through Star Trek the magazine, the sort of big glossy one from the early 2000s. The what are they called? Those like diagrams of the rooms, and they would have them labeled and they would have extra information. So it'd be like the sort of cutaway style pictures of the bridge and engineering. And
I love that.
I actually did. We never published it because Eagle Moss went into business before, so it sort of didn't make it relevant to do it anymore. But they were republishing a bunch of those they weren't quite tech manuals, but these books that they did on the Enterprise D and the original Enterprise, and there's one on Voyager, which had lots of that. They were nowhere near as good or as like in-depthly in universe as the TNG or the DS9 tech manuals were. But they had a light flavor of that. But what they did have was all of those diagrams that had been in Star Trek the magazine reprinted in these books, and they'd done some new ones for, like the Strange New Worlds Enterprise bridge. Right. And I had done a series of interviews with people who had been connected with the fact files and the Star Trek the magazine, who had like been responsible for putting those together in the first place. And it was really cool to talk to them about it, like, you know, approaching it with the same philosophy of doing things like that for, you know, like proper engineering projects and things like that, and sort of doing it for Star Trek. As I say, we never published it because it was partially to help Eagle Moss sell books, and then they went out of business and had no books to sell anymore. So, so I never took the time to finish it. But yeah, that would be really cool, and it is a big hole. It's also one where it's like, in some ways, it feels like in the era of the internet, there should just be more of that stuff anyway, because it's like, okay, well, you don't need a big publishing company to agree to do it. Just write something up and throw it up online, and that's that, right? Like, you know, in the sort of Michael Chabon style of having published all that stuff about the Romulans, right, you know, where he just put it on his blog because he just like put this stuff together and wanted to get it out there, you know, into the world. Sort of I mean, I guess it's probably because people will need to get paid to do that kind of thing, and, you know, get paid to put it up online. But I don't know, it's one of those things where it's like, you would feel like the internet should have democratized that kind of thing and made it easier for it to come out. But yet somehow we're still going back to the TNG Tech Manual and the DS9 Tech Manual exclusively, and the TNG Tech Manual is still in print,
right? Which
is crazy. It's still almost 30 years later, and that thing is still in print.
I just want some schematics. I want some PNIDs. Come on.
Yep. You want to like spread the deck plans out over your table.
I do. I really
That
do.
would make you lose your job.
I would get completely lost in it. So instead of looking at the diagram, I'm supposed to be looking at it.
Exactly, yeah.
Fake starship diagrams. Oh no. Yeah, maybe I shouldn't wish for tech manuals.
How many tech update manuals did you bring? All right, it's not really theory, it's not really wish, just sort of an observation.
Okay.
I mean, Star Trek Day was yesterday, and we sort of talked a bit about how, you know, it felt pretty bland and pretty corporate, and there was no, you know, we didn't get a new show trailer. There was not the sort of level of announcements or stuff or like excitement generating things. I mean, the embargoed press release that went out for yesterday's event was the collaboration stuff, the Kid Cudi stuff.
Right.
The New York Comic Con panel list has come out for the first time since, I think, 2017. No Star Trek panel currently listed on the schedule for New York Comic Con. I think
such a bummer.
Kid Cudi stuff is potentially like, there is a thing that he's doing, and I think that is probably going to be, you know, the Star Trek stuff will be a focus of that. But like, no Enter the Star Trek Universe panel with, you know, talking about Discovery Season 5 and Prodigy Season 2 and closing out Lower Deck Season 4. None of that seems like it's not happening. And it does feel like we are sort of entering a period of there just not really being very much, right, in terms of, you know, and I think that is somewhat a consequence of Paramount Plus cost cutting, right? They offloading shows. They cut one entirely. They cancelled another, you know, and made its fifth season its last season. That the newly announced stuff from earlier this year has not existed long enough, especially with a 150-day writer's strike, for there to be anything to say about it. That Strangely Worlds has said everything that it can, since it's not filmed a single second of season 3, but has broadcast all of season 2. And so, like, I think partially a result of the sort of shrinking a little bit of the current slate of Star Trek projects. Also, clearly a big product of the strikes. Writers, actors currently on strike. Even if Paramount had wanted to do another big live event, they couldn't have, because none of the actors would have showed up, and it would have gotten picketed, and it just would have been bad press. And so obviously, you know, that was not happening. But it just feels like, all right, we know there'll be a Discovery trailer between now and the end of the year when they'll announce when the 5th season will ultimately premiere. But then what else, you know? And once the strikes end, things will get back to, you know, normal. Strangely World Season 3 will go in front of the camera. They'll finish writing Starfleet Academy Season 1, and that will go into production. The Section 31 movie, I guess, you know, I can't remember where I saw this, who said it, but like, that sounds like it's very close to being ready to going into production. You know, it's that, like, it is actually a real thing. They've got it all lined up, and it's just a case of, you know, as soon as they can get Michelle Yeoh to Toronto and stick her in front of a camera, that thing is rolling and moving. But right now, we're just entering really a bit of a fallow fallow period. And like even for Lower Deck season 4, right? No actors, obviously because of the SAG strike, no actors out there doing promotion connected to it. Even Mike McMahon seems like he's stopped doing promotion connected to it. That like the writers, even though they don't have the same gag rules as SAG, have sort of adopted the gag rules for themselves, even though the guild's not told them to do it. So like Trek Movies interview about Star Trek Lower Deck season 4 was with the supervising director, because the directors have a deal with the studios and nobody else does. And so I don't know, Weekly Trek might become every other Weekly Trek for the next little while, or monthly Trek a little bit here and there, because I don't know, it feels to me like people should prepare themselves for the next few months, certainly, and at least until the strikes are resolved, for them not really to be all that much. And then once the strikes get resolved, it'll take some time for things to get moving again and for them to be in a position to say anything about stuff. And I don't know, it kind of sucks. It's 100% a consequence of the overreach of the studios connected to their streaming services, the greed of the studios connected to their unwillingness to negotiate a fair deal for writers and actors and figure out the path forward. But it does really feel now, where it hasn't over the last few months, that like the strikes' impact have really expanded out beyond Los Angeles and Hollywood to everybody else too, and that's part of how you end up with a deal, right? Once it starts affecting you and me, that's when it's like all right, you got to stop this now, right? Like, because its impacts have gotten so large that they're now affecting people who have nothing to do with the industry, and affecting, right, like, we just have to wait a bit longer for Star Trek, boohoo. But at the same time, it is just like, I don't know, it sort of adds to a little bit this sense of malaise connected to this little, and is this a speed bump? Is this or is this a change into something new? And it's just like, well, we got hit with Discovery cancellation and then the Prodigy cancellation, and now we did First Contact Day and there was nothing worth saying, and we did Star Trek Day and there was nothing worth saying. So yeah, it feels to me like people need to prepare themselves for a bit less news in the Star Trek space, in addition to a bit less Star Trek in the Star Trek space, as a consequence of everything that's happened and the strikes and the cancellation. And so yeah, that's sort of, I just feel it's a little bit where we are, and it may not be Weekly Trek for a little while. It might be it might be a little less frequent than that, because I only do episodes when there's stuff to say. I don't do episodes just to go and talk about stuff. It's only when there's news that I think is people would want to hear a discussion about. So yeah, I think that's where we're going to be for the next few months. And I think, yeah, as we were talking about earlier, Star Trek Day, kind of put a button on that for me, of like, oh yeah, this very much feels like a new space that we're in, at least until the strikes end. And who knows, how long after that.
Yeah, I mean, I very much want to find out if Marie's going to die from her Gorn infestation. I very much want to see what this Starfleet Academy show is going to be about, what the Section 31 movie is going to be like. I very much want these things, but I also want these greedy bitches to pay the people that make these shows that I love what they deserve. And if that means I have to go back and watch the 900 episodes of Star Trek that already exist for a year so that they can be treated fairly, then then I'm going to do that. And you're right. It sucks, but it's important. And, and it's just one of those things. And I think everybody's in the same boat with that. It's not just Star Trek. Like, you can't infer anything about the future of Star Trek from that. You know what I mean? Like, because if you're talking about there's a lack of things. I mean, when we talked about why, maybe why Star Trek Day wasn't as big this year, it's because they couldn't have anything big. They can't be promoting things. They probably filmed that stuff before the strike, I would think, even with like Jerry O'Connell. I don't know how that works.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the way strikes are. They suck.
Yeah, right.
There's like for everyone, and I'm the least affected of this because it's not my livelihood. I'm not the the writers and the actors who aren't getting paid fairly for their work. And dude, not anything I can do to help. I just, there's no gray area in this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? This is a black and white issue. There's a right and a wrong here. And, sometimes it takes a while to wear down the bad guy. in strikes like this, and that sucks, but it is what it is. And maybe we won't get weekly treks, but eventually we will, if it's bi-weekly, monthly, whatever, eventually it'll be back to weekly, eventually there'll be more news, and just gotta hunker down for the long winter in the meantime. And I think we're lucky that they had that they stretched it out.
Yeah, right.
We've got a season of Discovery, in the base, like a jar of preserves in the basement. You know what I mean? For the long, help us get through the long winter. So we are, in that respect, we're kind of lucky.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll just see what happens, right?
Yeah.
And hey, old Star Trek's still pretty good. I was watching The Search before.
Oh, nice.
Before we started recording.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm just hopping around at the moment,
Yeah, me too. I'm preparing for another podcast that I'm going to be on soon.
Yeah.
So I'm doing a little hopping around.
Yeah, doing a little research.
Yeah, doing some research.
Yeah. Do you have a theory or a wish connected to Discovery, Section 31, Starfleet Academy, Strange New Worlds, Lower Decks, or Prodigy that you'd like to share? Tweet them to me at WeeklyTrek or email them to me at weeklytrek@thetricordertransmissions.com, and I might feature your theory in a future episode. Well, that's all the time we've got for this episode of Weekly Trek. Thank you so much to my guest, Jen Tiff, for joining me today. Jen, how can people contact you if they want to continue the conversation?
You can find me on Twitter. I'm at EatAtQuarks.
And you can find the show on Twitter at WeeklyTrek and me at Alexander T. Perry on Twitter and at Alex T. Perry everywhere else. And if you enjoy the show, please consider leaving us a 5-star review on your podcast player of choice. And please check out some of the other great shows on the Tricorder Transmissions. And if you like our shows, please also consider becoming a Patreon of Tricorder, which you can find at patreon.com/the Tricorder Transmissions. And lastly, if you're looking for Star Trek news on the internet, I hope you will turn to trekcore.com. Well, thank you, Jen. Thank you to all of my listeners. And until next week, live long and prosper.